America, I love them.
Oh yeah,
I love
Yo, they make their own weights. They're ripped.
They use like car parts and stuff like that. And
Dude, they're lifting like these cinder blocks, and they're
amazing.
I mean, you see that and you think, man, if half those guys were here doing this,
it's over.
They'll be crazy.
Have you ever thought about going back to Nigeria and maybe doing like, because you see with like Anthony Joshua and boxing and just putting kind of on the world stage, like bringing that focus to
because
back home.
If you open the gym, I think.
Oh my gosh!
You definitely can open a gym and everything else. And they got a few shows out in Nigeria that are actually quite weird, and they've invited me to, and that's something I'm sort of excited to kind of go back and see. I think the one thing about bodybuilding, though, because obviously where federation and the sport actually works, because bodybuilding is still a luxury sport. As much as it is, because the amount of food and we have to consume and everything else, the money that goes into it, a lot of guys won't be able to. This is where the drawback always happens trying to do it from Nigeria, because I get a lot of questions from fans in Nigeria going, look, I really want to be a bodybuilder and everything else. So you can do it, but I'm going to just tell you straight up that the amount of food and what goes into what you got to eat to get to this, to be able to afford that constantly is one of your biggest. It's not your work ethic. It's not the idea that you can't do it, you don't have great genetics. This is one of part that is always going to be one of the pitfalls to us that we're going to struggle with, is that. And it's a hard one. It's sort of a sad one as well, but that the talent is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just know that the amount of eating, your jaws get tired just from trying to. Literally, like
chicken breast is the driest on the planet.
Exactly right.
So your wife, is your coach.
Yes.
How I'm sorry, I love my wife now. I mean, how did your wife get accepted into this world and get into training Mr. Olympia? And then secondly, how do you not make it personal and go back and forth? You remember you said this last night. Like, how does that?
I mean, first and foremost, like because when I started playing rugby and I was going to the gym to train for rugby, I met her in the gym. And she started training. We just started training together. And I was trying to hit on her. That's the reason why we started training together.
Yeah.
We're like,
you weren't even really working out.
I was just like, we're going to work out together. But we started working and training, working together. And then, she started saying to me that, look, your body, I see the way you're kind of growing and you're developing and everything else. Have you ever thought about doing like a physique competition? And, I kind of thought about it going, not really my thing, not something I was ever interested in anyway. So after a few months, I started, whenever we play a rugby game, we go in the showers and go in change rooms, guys were like, bro, man, what the hell? You looking jacked. Like, have you ever thought about like doing a bodybuilding show? And I'm like, well, you guys do? What was this thing all about? So it took a few months, but she convinced me to finally say, okay, you know what? Well, go on then. Let's. If I was going to give her a show, what do we have to do? Okay. And I said, okay, why don't you show me what you have to do? Because she was already into the sport and into the training, into bodybuilding. She was a PT and everything. She knew what, the muscles are, how to train, how to diet and everything else. So I said, look, okay, you show me, teach me what we have to do. So from that point there, we started working together. I said, okay, right. We picked the show we wanted to do and we basically trained together going to that first show. So she basically sort of walked me into it and sort of like trained me and showed me, okay. Whoa. And while everybody else was sort of like looking at me and going, man, dude, you're looking crazy. She was looking at me going, you're missing that, you're missing this, you need that. And she was picking me apart more than anybody else. She was the harshest critic, and she was really picking me apart and everything else. And then, did my first amateur show, won that, kind of started going up the ranks and started playing, like doing real well. She was the one that was always kind of pulling me down, keeping me grounded, going like, you ain't quite there yet. And, she saw things coming way before I even had an idea for me, because I thought this was just a bit of fun. This was something that, okay, I was good at, it's great, but I didn't know it was going that far. I didn't have an idea that it was going to go that far. But she had more of a vision for it than I did. Like, okay, this is something that you can climb up to. And slowly, she saw set the path to go and get me there. And then when we got to the point where I became a pro and I was good enough to start working compete at that level, she was good enough to step back and say, okay, you know what, at this point, I don't think I know enough to help you at this point. So we got an external coach to help me at that point. And then we kind of worked with the coach for a few years, won the Arnold, got better at that point.
Crazy.
And then 2024 coming in, things weren't start working out with me and the coach, and we weren't just clicking like that. And I just told him, look, I'm just going to do my own thing. And after that, we kind of sat down. Now she was like, okay, well, who do you want to hire now? What do you want to work? And I just kind of like, look, you got me here. You got me into being a pro. You got me to this level I am now. Well, you just do it. And she kind of like, I don't know. But I was like, look, why don't you just, you know, I trust you more than anybody else. I know you have my best interest at heart more than anybody else can.
dope.
You know,
Man.
so you're like, you know, if anything happens to me, I know full well that you're going to be standing right there by my side, regardless win, lose, or draw. So I'm like, I couldn't think of anything better to do. And besides, you live with me. I can't cheat on my diet when I'm living at home with you. No, people don't understand. People
You're not supposed to be eating that.
yeah,
Right.
People like, oh, you live with your wife. You must be. I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is when you know you're starving and you go downstairs in the middle of the night. You try to sneak something in the fridge. You open up and there's like, there's no food at home. I'm like, oh crap! She makes sure there's no food I can eat at home.
Man. She like clears
out the cupboard, clears out the house. There's absolutely nothing. You know, so she makes sure that everything's on schedule, everything's on tap like that. So when we first announced that, okay, she was going to be coaching me to the Olympia, and now at that point I was already top 3 in the world, and I was one of the favorites to go win the Olympia. People were like, "You crazy?"
Yeah, people were talking crap, and you
Man,
defended
they talked
her.
a lot of crap. You know,
Yeah,
they had a lot to say.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was kind of odd for us because we were like, if anybody knew our history, we already knew that we were working together way before we even came on the scene. So for us, we were like, this, I don't know, this don't make sense. She's always been there.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had a lot of people talking crap, and that's all like, it sort of fired me up a bit because it pissed me off a bit. I was like, no, you don't. You can talk about me all you want, but don't talk about me.
Keep my wife in the head.
So we went into the Olympia that year, like, okay, you know what? We got a lot to prove and we got a lot to show them. So trained up that year, and we got on that stage, and the minute that name was called, I was like, you know what? There's only one thing I want you to do. I want you to walk on that stage and pick up that trophy because you show everyone up. You show.
Sure
Yeah,
did.
and she became, your wife became the very first woman in history to coach a Mr. Olympia champion. How about that, man?
That was for me, you know.
You created history and history. I mean,
That's dope.
You know, that's sort of made that so special for me as well, you know. And, you know, for everything we've sort of gone through together, because it's one thing when everybody see you, you're already there. They forget, they don't see the point where she was working her full-time job and she was working overtime just so I can chase after this hobby. Yeah. You know, she was, all of her earnings, everything she was doing, she was bringing the money home and she was like, okay, let's buy more food. Let's buy this. So she was spending it all on me.
That's a real
So, you know, so people never saw that. So when we got to the point where people were like, oh, what are you doing? How can a woman coach you? Whatever. And I'm like, what are you all talking about? You don't know what she's done to get me here. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here.
She getting calls like, hey, can you coach me?
Yeah. She got
right.
She got a lot of that straight away.
No doubt.
And she was like, no, I'm more interested. She was like, I already got one Bodybuilding deal. It's hard enough.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is the sort of thing that's all beautiful. And because we had to go through so much of that over and over again, that's all brought us closer together where I mean, when you've already bumped heads enough about what you have to do and who's doing right and who's doing, and all that stuff, and you've gone through it, you just learn, okay, what works and how the dynamics of the relationship works together. And that's sort of like, okay, we have a common goal. And for me, it's not I'm chasing everything and she's at home watching.